Morning fam, and welcome to a brand new video. Today we're going to be covering my team selection ahead of double game week 28. If you're loving the content, then please do drop a like. Let's try and hit 60 likes on this video. That would be absolutely fabulous. Do pop me a comment below. Are you wildcarding this week? If so, who is your priority? Lastly, if you're new to the channel, then please do subscribe. You're really helping me out. Okay, so with just one fixture left of game week 27, let's get after this. Starting off with how I'm getting on so far in blank game week 27, and well, lesson learned, I should have free hit. Lots of other content creators did, and they're reaping the rewards now. Not by a massive amount, but still enough to hurt me a little bit. So yeah, definitely something to bear in mind for the future, that's for sure. De Gea did at least keep a clean sheet, which is extremely needed and not at all expected, for 6 points. My defence, in fact, is pretty much holding my team up when it comes to my points. Cancelo doing what he does best by getting a clean sheet and 3 bonus points, adding 9 points to all of our teams because all of us own him. Almost a shame that free hitters weren't persuaded off of him with other fixtures, so yeah, that was a bit frustrating. Livramento, the absolute hero, came back just in time. Last 2 game weeks he's got me 20 points. What an absolute legend. Kilman, on the other hand, was my only letdown in defence. Bit of a shame, as every little helps at the moment. Wolves, surprisingly, looking a little shaky at the back the last 3 weeks, which is a little bit disturbing. Not the right time for them to be falling off of a cliff right now. In midfield, I decided to keep it simple. Son came in for Salah for a 9-point gain. We had to wait late in the game for it, but he delivered in the end. Love you, Sonny. Thanks for that. Annoyingly, that Webster injury left me deciding whether or not to take a -8 hit or not for Rafinha, removing Trossard from my team finally. However, I'll be completely honest with you guys, I ran out of time with the Friday deadline, and in a way it saved me a few points this week, as Rafinha didn't end up returning and only got 2 points and Trossard got the 1, so to have taken a -4 for him I'd have been a couple of points down. Trossard though, this guy is living rent-free in my team. He is doing my head in. Trashard, as I'm calling him. I was so excited to see him start this week. It was the hope that kills you, and the guy couldn't even get me a minimum of 2 points. I cannot wait to sell Trashard. I cannot wait. I may even dedicate a video especially to it. He was my worst transfer of the season, and how I've managed to get to where I have with him in my team, I will never actually know. Bowen not delivering in the weeks that those of us have not free hitted or wildcarded, which is a bit of a shame because we really needed him to, because a lot of those people will have sold him on wildcards or not played them in their free hits. So a little bit disappointing because, you know, he's been great all season. It would really have been helpful had he have delivered the last 2 weeks. Question now is whether to keep him going forward. Bruno was quiet by his standards, but I didn't mind so much this week, weirdly, as so many people had jumped on him using the free hit. So actually, I'm kind of grateful he stayed quiet. He's done his job for me, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. Up front, Vegas came in for a -4. He's not paid that back yet, but hopefully the second fixture will pay dividends when it comes around. But that's where the excitement ends when it comes to my forwards. Back to them not delivering for me, and with the surprise benching of Jimenez and Dennis doing Dennis things, i.e. absolutely nothing. Basically, they just didn't add anything really to my team. Really disappointing. In a week where Kane popped off, I really needed Jimenez to start and potentially get a return. Yeah. Not so great. All of that means I'm on 48 points, so 44 with the -4 hit. A big come down from the 142 points of last game week, but it was always going to be the way. I'm currently on a 6k red arrow to 74,283rd. I expected a red this week. I'll be completely honest with you guys, with not free hitting and having taken a hit. You know, I didn't have the best team going into this week. I also expect to fall a little further with no Burnley defence or the odd Leicester assets that will be being called upon for certain FPL managers to play instead of blank game week players. However, if Weghorst could return, his 8.4 ownership could help minimise some damage for me, especially as my captain, albeit I suspect the 8% are sat directly around me, so I'm not sure how much it will actually help, but hey, more points is better than no points, so if he can manage a return, I'll be grateful, although it may give me a bit of a headache on what to do going into next game week. And with that, let's take a look. So this is what I look like for double game week 28 currently, and it's time to decide if to wildcard. This is my bus team, and I've got to admit I'm in no man's land with this team. It's not a dead obvious wildcard, and it's also lacking in any real punch to be a definite not wildcard, so I'm kind of somewhere middling at the moment. I've got 4 double game week players currently, and I will be using my 1 free transfer to bring Salah back in for Bruno because I am not going without Salah. So -4 or -8 will be needed to add more doublers if I'm not wildcarding. They will consist of selling Trossard probably to somebody like Ramsey or Willock. I would have thought Ramsey will free up a bit of cash and potentially allow me to move Jimenez to Kane next game week for his double, or potentially allow me to move Webster to Robertson for his double. However, I will probably be quite tempted, I would have thought, when the Chelsea double is announced, which is coming this week, to up Webster to a Chelsea defender. However, what I will say is that I was struggling on who to bench in my bus team. If bringing in Ramsey or Willock, then I'd probably drop Bowen to the bench. That feels like, you know, an easy thing to do based on his recent form and the fact that he has Liverpool. However, if I'm to bring in a Chelsea defender for Webster, then it makes my life a whole lot more difficult on who to bench. You know, I could bench Dennis. He does have a double game week, but you'd like to think that Chelsea's double would be much better. But of the single game week players, I think it's either Saka or Cancelo that would have to drop to the bench. And that means I'm going to have some single game week players that have been pretty epic this season sat looking at me on the bench in either Bowen and Saka or Bowen and Cancelo. So I know taking the -8 gives me an extra couple of double game week players. It sees me going forward with a much more wildcard-like team. However, it really does give me a headache for this week. You may ask, why not then just pull out the bench boost? Well, I'm not sure I'd be gaining the most out of it right now when I could potentially use it further down the line when I've got maybe 2 or 3 double game week players. And that'd be a much more soul destroying moment, but not being able to use the bench boost than looking at the particular single players in my team this particular game week. If I did do this, and let's just say that I did go a bit batshizzel and I did go for a Chelsea defender in that spot with the -8 or Robertson, I probably wouldn't switch Kane in for Jimenez because Jimenez has the double, whereas Kane doesn't this week, although Kane against Everton is pretty scary as it stands. I would be tempted to hit my free hit chip in game week 29, much like a lot of other content creators did last game week to effectivize the double game week. I would be hitting it in order to triple up on Liverpool because I currently only have 2 Liverpool players. I may be able to go for Mane or Jota, for instance, or even just get Robertson in to minimise damage. And it allows me to get Kane in, which would be the main one for me because he's the one that's hurt my rank more so this week than any other player so far. So that would allow me to really get a very good team next game week, maybe gain back those 15-20 points that I lost. However, I would be going back to quite a slim team for game week 30. The options, as I mentioned in a little bit, are quite slim in game week 30 anyway, so I'm not entirely sure whether the free hit would aid me much there. And then what I would do is wildcard for 31, setting myself up hopefully nicely to bench boost in game week 33 or 36. However, the question I'm asking myself right now though is, am I muddling through? The main reason I did badly this week was, as I say, not owning Kane with his 11 points. And it really hurt my rank, and many more will move to him this week on a wildcard. He is the main reason for me considering the wildcard, apart from obviously getting rid of Trashard. It's not like Everton have been great in defence this season. You could absolutely see Spurs walking it. However, if I was to wildcard, this is what my wildcard draft would look like. We are waiting on a Chelsea double announcement in Gameweek 28, as I said, which will definitely come this week. But is it time to freshen up my defence? Finally get rid of the likes of Dennis, Trashard, Webster, De Gea, and get on triple Liverpool, double Spurs, and so on. The negatives I see with a wildcard are trying to say squeeze Son and Kane in with Robertson, Trent, Salah, Cancelo, and some sort of Chelsea defence. It can be done, but I think you'd have to be looking at the likes of Brownhill instead of Willock. You'd also maybe be considering getting rid of Cancelo potentially for that Chelsea defender, or you'd have to go with one really cheap forward asset like a 4 mil non-player, which I can't really afford to do potentially, as I will be bench boosting somewhere down the line. So basically it can be done, but compromises are needed elsewhere. That's why in this draft I've gone with Kulu instead of Son. He looked great on the weekend, even taking some of Son's space. I thought he actually could have had an extra goal, and he frees up so much cash to allow for a better all-round squad. But it's a risky strategy because a lot of people will be on Son and Kane. So if they do the crazy thing that we know they can do together, that could really, really hurt rank. Another week or two and we may have more information on whether both Kane and Son are needed. So that's the other reason for potentially holding off on a wildcard. A wildcard this game week also makes for a mad benching headache. So if you think I would have had a mad benching headache before with my -4 or my -8, this is going to be nuts. You're going to want to play all of your double game week players, of which you're just going to have loaded up on, which means your bench is going to consist of some players that we know can absolutely hurt when you don't play them. It also means that you're pretty much forcing yourself into a bench boost next game week. Alright, you may think, I don't have to use my bench boost next week. Of course you don't. No, it's completely up to you. However, I think when you see your bench for next game week based on a team like this, even added with potentially Son and going a bit cheaper with some of the other options, I think you're going to look at the team and go, oh my word, I am again benching some really great single game week players. Now, the other thing to consider, of course, is game week 30 if you wildcard now, unless you're going to free hit, which, is a potential option. It was what I was originally considering. However, if you loaded up on a wildcard with the likes of Villa, Arsenal, Wolves, Leeds and Leicester, if you trust them, potentially we may have some more added to that, but we'll know after midweek this week. But it really doesn't look like there are going to be many more fixtures added. Potentially Southampton, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. There's nothing we can do until those FA Cup games have gone. But I don't feel like it's a really strong week potentially to free hit. And if you wildcard now, you can cover about 8 of those game week players and potentially work towards getting a few more by game week 30. The only thing is, though, if you do that, if you wildcard now, you get in those 8 players for game week 30, if you're not free hitting, then you are pretty much kind of tying yourself in to that team thereafter for the rest of the season, because you'll have to work into covering those players in game week 30, and then you'll have nothing out the other side. So you won't have a wildcard to refresh in your squad out the other side. So do kind of feel like if you're going to wildcard this week, then you're probably going to want to free hit in the blank game week, just so that you can keep some of those really good players going forward. But of course, hopefully we'll have a rough idea on some of the doubles by then. We can at least predict what 33 and 36 look like, which may mean making the choice as to whether to use your free hit in the blank a lot easier. That's why I think I'm kind of wobbling a little bit. So if we just summarize, I think this wildcard can see me through the next 3 to 4 game weeks, especially if I'm adding in a Chelsea defender. But then I do wonder if I want to freshen my squad for the last few game weeks with still some big doubles to come. I will wait before hitting the wildcard button until after the FA Cup fixtures. So I'll probably do Bruno to Salah now, because either way I will be wanting to do that transfer regardless of a wildcard. But maybe a small hit now and attacking the strong double next game week with the free hit, and then muddling through game week 30 with the wildcard in my pocket may be more beneficial, but midweek should help clarify my mind on that. You know me, I love to go completely batshit with some of these strategies, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I'll of course update you in my Friday stream as always. Captaincy will be mixed again this week. Can we trust Jimenez starts both fixtures now after he got that benching at the start of the last fixture? Would I keep him on a wildcard? At the moment, I don't have him in my wildcard. Or is it that he's just had his rest now and he will play, you know, especially after Wolves losing, that he will start and will play going forward? Do you risk putting the captaincy on a Villa player or a Southampton player who have been a little inconsistent recently? In terms of double game week players, there's not many standing out for captaincy. I'd say Willock on his recent form if I got him, but that seems completely batshit. May just work, it may be brilliant, but it is also a little crazy. Mainly because he is facing Brighton and Southampton, who can be on their day great defensively. I mean, look at how many points Livermento's got me recently, so, you know. Honestly, it's tempting to leave my captaincy on Salah or Son as single game week players, which only makes me wonder again if the wildcard is needed, as I have both already. Okay, as for the top transfers in and out this game week, it looks like a lot of people have done the old hop on, hop off situation that I have done with Salah, as he is the most transferred in so far this game week. Interestingly enough, I have Brozier in my wildcard draft, but Adams is definitely worth some consideration for me. And if I was to go Kulu instead of Son in that midfield range, it would leave me enough money to invest further in Adams rather than Brozier. So I do like the fact that he's coming in, obviously as that double game week. So yeah, absolutely. Kane, worrying to see for me as somebody who is considering whether or not to wildcard him in right now. And if I don't wildcard, I won't own him. So a little worrying to see at this early stage that he's already the third most transferred in player. Jimenez, interesting. I would be selling him on a wildcard. I feel like he's an easy transfer in for people that aren't wildcarding. So with that in mind, I think that he's just potentially filling in gaps for a lot of people. Maybe people are selling on Weghorst. Maybe they're getting rid of King or Dennis, which is completely understandable at the moment. Again, I would be getting rid of him on a wildcard, so that is something for me to keep in mind, that he is the fourth most transferred in player so far at the moment. And Livermento, great to see, hopefully pushes up his price a little bit. Loved having him in my team at the moment. As for Jota, he is the most transferred out. Interesting, seeing as he was back last night in the cup and doing well, so interesting to see that he's making his way out. I think a lot of people are making the shift to Robertson in defence, and those that have just had Jota for weeks potentially on their bench are now shifting him out where they get a chance potentially to get Salah back in, or, you know, maybe to move to the likes of Rafinha's and Coutinho's and stuff like that. Antonio got his assist on the weekend, but people are not willing to stick with him. Again, potentially this is the whole reasoning for Jimenez as well coming in, because he's a nice switch in for Antonio. Jimenez has the double game week where Antonio doesn't. Bowen, the West Ham lads, going out like Lord knows what. People obviously just trading single game week players for double game week players, and the fact that Bowen obviously hasn't produced when we've needed him to as our single game week player, so I don't blame people on that one. Although him being as good as he has been this season, it is quite a scary prospect to sell, but that is the whole point of this game, is knowing when to jump on and off players. Is this the right time to be selling Bowen? Only time will tell. Ronaldo, yeah, I mean, if you've still got Ronaldo, then a shift to Kane just looks as simple as pie, really. Or moving down to somebody with a double game week, like your Adams, like your Jimenez's, like your Woods, for instance, and then that, frees up more cash to spend elsewhere. And then lastly, interesting to see Fernandes moving out. Again, that probably just strengthens the whole thing that potentially a lot of people have done, similar to myself, where they've hopped off of Salah for the game week, potentially to the likes of somebody like Bruno or Son, and now they're selling on Bruno to get Salah back. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'll see you later in the week with a pre-deadline stream on Friday afternoon, where I may be finalising my wildcard or taking a massive bat shizzle hit. Have an absolute great week until then, but for now, please check out my sponsors of this video, Fantasy Football Fix. Until next time, Nymfria out.